Hello, and welcome to Behind the Headlines. Today we're going to take a break from our usual routine, and instead of talking about the latest intrigue in City Hall or the school board, we're going to escape to the world of movies with our movie maestro, Peter Canavese, who spends his time watching all the things that we don't have to watch, and a few ones that we should watch. And today we're going to cover his summer picks, which are in today's edition of The Weekly. Peter, thank you for joining us again.
Sure, great to be here.
Great. Well, let's start with, I want to kind of touch on the whole idea of summer movies, because there's plenty of people in Palo Alto and elsewhere who probably have a bit of a over-sugared taste in their mouths when they hear the term. They think of explosions, Michael Bay,
right,
superheroes in costumes. How hard is it for you to sift through all of these? Or how easy is it at this time of the year?
Well, it is kind of an onslaught during the summer. That there's a bit more of a push through the pipeline during the summer than during the off seasons. But other than that, it's basically the same as usual. And I think you just become accustomed to it. Like you say, I mean, that's an accurate description. Most of what we get during the summer, ever since 1976.
Was Johnny Depp in a pirate soon that far back?
No,
summer?
But you know, the advent of Lucas and Spielberg, right? Star Wars and Indiana Jones, that sort of spawned the world we're in now, where summer is the big event movies with, as you say, the explosions and the capes and the stunts and all that.
But and also let me thank you, because in your coverage you've also touched upon some things where some of the more highbrow audience could also enjoy.
Right.
We're going to get to those as well.
Yes.
But let's start big, because this is the summer movie edition.
Right.
Yes.
And
we got all the props here.
yes,
Very nice.
To get us inspired.
Dig in. Well, let's start with the biggest. You touch upon these, of course, in your issue. But what do you see as the biggest hits, and or the ones you look forward to the most, which may not be the same thing?
Right. Well, superheroes are still sort of the movie du jour for.
They're an evergreen product now.
Yeah. Not even relegated to just the summer anymore, but there are a couple of big ones. Wonder Woman, especially. Is one I think a lot of people are looking forward to, myself included. It does look pretty promising. Maybe it might be a course reversal for DC. A lot of people aren't too enthused about the dark take they've been having with their superhero movies like Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, which actually introduced Wonder Woman.
Right.
But this one's directed by Patty Jenkins. There's a lot of quote-unquote girl power, I don't really like that term, but woman power behind Wonder Woman. And Gal Gadot was really well received in that Batman and Superman movie. So it's exciting to see that character finally get her own feature film. It's been
It sounds like there's been contributions for quite a few people before Patty Jenkins. Can you tell me a little about the kind of the behind-the-scenes work to get this movie done? Because I hear there was some
passing it off from one director to
It's
another.
been in development for I think over 20 years, and Ivan Reitman was, I think, the first producer and potential director attached to it, the guy who did the original Ghostbusters. And eventually Paul Feig was attached to it. He's the guy who did the reboot of Ghostbusters. So it's kind of been through a lot of hands. And Joss Whedon in between, the guy who did the Avengers for Marvel. He would have, I think, done a very interesting take on it too. But
so this seems like a movie that you look forward to, and there's quite a few superhero movies you mentioned, because we were desperately needing another Spider-Man movie. Okay, right. I'm gonna load a question.
We all know how Gennady feels about Spider-Man.
I do want to ask why, what sets Wonder Woman apart from the others, aside from the gender of the protagonist?
Right. I mean, I think that is a big thing about it. Not that we haven't had action movies headlined by women before, but
Kill Bill.
Yeah, right. But I think just it's a character that is so big on the pages of comic books that has never gotten her, spotlight.
Right.
So I think that's what's really got people excited about it. And the preview footage has been pretty impressive. I think people look at it and go, oh, this actually looks like it might be good.
I'm really excited, personally. And I really hope that they make the island, Paradise Island? Yeah, I hope.
Themyscira or whatever.
Yeah, I hope that, they make that more Xena warrior princess than,
It looks that way. It looks like the Amazons are pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's what it looks like from the trailers. I'm excited.
And Robin Wright, I think, plays her mom, right?
Yeah.
So that's some pretty powerful.
After House of Cards, that just
acting
adds a little dark note.
Yeah, and Kevin Spacey shows up later this summer too in his.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
In a
he
different
shows up
movie.
in Wonder
Not
Woman.
in Wonder Woman, but in
Nice.
Baby Driver.
That's some political
That's
intrigue.
right.
So is it safe to conclude then that Wonder Woman is at the top of the list of the superhero movies as far as the movie you guys most look forward to? Because I know you mentioned a few others. Well, the aforementioned Spider-Man.
Yeah, right. Spider-Man looks good too if you enjoy that kind of thing. But obviously, there's a little less novelty there. There's been
And there's the Mummy.
5 of those, I think.
Yeah.
Mummy and Transformers, more movies about
Right.
which I was desperately praying for a sequel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, the Mummy's
Mummy,
getting a
yeah.
reboot at least, but
And the apes. Let's not forget the
right.
apes.
War for
Oh,
the Planet of the
goodness.
Apes, the third one of those in the refreshed franchise. Yeah.
Summer's like the recycling season.
Yeah.
But Wonder Woman, it does seem fresh just because it hasn't been there. So, yeah, well, great. But let's talk about some of the ones that you don't, that are maybe high budget, but you don't rank as highly in your esteem. The ones that you feel may fall short, even if they do well at the box office.
Well, the
Yeah.
top of that list would definitely be the latest Transformers movie, because I personally hate those movies. I think they are the low bar for Hollywood.
Yeah.
Really kind of just stupid and clanging
Yeah.
kind of summer blockbusters.
So you heard it here first. Summer blockbusters do have a low bar.
They do.
Transformers is it.
So how do you get through
limbos.
a movie like that as a film critic? How do you sit through it?
It's like the coal mining of movie reviews.
Right. Well, I think I probably shouldn't confess how I get to a movie like that. I don't take naps, but sometimes your brain does kind of shut down defensively, and just the images just kind of flow in front of your eyes, and you they don't really stick.
Right.
But no, I do try to pay attention even through the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So we don't have to. You're taking one for the team.
Yeah, you just gird your loins and strap on your seatbelt and try not to look at your watch.
Yeah.
Well, I will look forward to not seeing Transformers. What else is on your list of must-miss this
Must
summer?
miss. Oh man.
And I promise, we are going to get to the good movies
Right,
in a
right.
little bit. Just we want to conquer the superheroes first.
The Emoji Movie is not one I'm particularly looking forward to, I have to say. It looks,
Dare I ask what emoji you would give it? Okay. Sorry.
well, yeah, what emoji? Probably frowny face, right?
Okay.
Maybe the vomiting one. But I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. But it doesn't look particularly exciting or thrilling to me. But then again, I'm not an 8-year-old. It's kind of actually scary that a movie aimed at 8-year-olds is about, like what happens on your phone. But I guess that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But there's other blockbusters that are going to be coming out this summer that have nothing to do with superheroes. You got Christopher Nolan's pretty amazing-looking Dunkirk movie, and
Yeah, I guess that would be a blockbuster for grown-ups, right?
yeah, I guess.
An epic, historical, sweeping.
See, there is something for everyone this summer.
Yeah.
So what are some of the non-superhero big movies you'd like to see? I'm not sure what your take is on Dunkirk, what your opinion is of the early previews and whatnot.
Well,
Harry Styles.
right. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to pass judgment on something that is sort of an unknown entity. When you have something like Transformers, you can kind of prejudge it a little bit without feeling too guilty. But,
We prejudge everything.
yeah, Dunkirk, we just sort of know. Well, it's a Christopher Nolan movie, and we know what it's about. And there has been some footage, but I've actually avoided watching it thus far. I tend to not want to see too much before I see a movie, but. But the early buzz is good. I think
And also, you know your history well, so it comes with a natural spoiler alert.
Yes, and you just know with a movie like that Warner Brothers is throwing a lot of money at it. He's not going to want for budget, and he's got a strong ensemble cast.
And he's not Michael Bay, so this
He's
must
not
actually be a
Michael
good
Bay.
movie.
He's got a pretty good track record, though Interstellar was maybe not his best film.
Less than stellar.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
coming off of that, but I think there's a good chance that it's going to be an impressive movie.
Yeah.
What do you look forward to, Anna? I mean, you mentioned Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
and,
given. I'm looking forward to Beatrice at dinner.
Great transition to the movies that don't involve explosions.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. I think it's a really timely movie, or it might be. I mean, from the previews.
Yeah, and
Really
Beatrice for dinner.
relevant.
That is mentioned in Peter's story. The John Lithgow character sounds pretty amazing. But tell us a little bit about Beatrice for dinner.
Right, yeah.
I'm with Anna on this one. It's one of those movies that we both could rally behind.
Yeah,
At
it's
least
another
the
movie
previews.
with a good creative track record because it's written by Mike White. And he's a pretty funny writer, and so he's somebody you'd want in your corner for his satirical film, or black comedy. And John Lithgow plays this pretty obvious Trump surrogate. He's a loudmouthed, obnoxious real estate mogul, and he's conservative-minded, and he's sort of pitted against Salma Hayek's character, the title character, who is a Mexican massage therapist, I think, and healer, who is liberal-minded, and so they clash on points of view at a dinner party, and then things go from there. I think it's sort of got a vengeance theme too, of her wanting to go after him and make him pay for his obnoxiousness. But that's about as much as I know.
Yeah,
Well,
that's intriguing.
It's hard to go wrong with John Lithgow playing a villain, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Except, well, Ricochet, maybe. Anyway,
Well,
that's
Tilda
going
Raising
way back.
Cain, which was shot in Palo Alto in this area.
Oh,
Okay, so I guess you could go wrong.
but speaking of villains, Tilda Swinton.
Oh.
And how do you pronounce
Okja, yes.
We're going to get to that. That's kind of outside the big screen. That's the Netflix. But that's actually, let's talk about that right now, because we've been mentioning all the big screen movies that are going to come out, but of course the way we're watching things has changed, and a lot of good stuff coming out on Netflix and Amazon Prime and whatnot. You can watch from comfort of your own home. Yeah, we did just see the trailer for Okja before this about a gigantic animal and food habits, and Tilda Swinton was looking amazing.
Eerie.
From director Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, it seems to have done well at Cannes. So I was curious, what's your take, first of all, about the streaming services Netflix? Do you think it presents legit competition for the movie theater? And is there anything in that format that you think is going to be worthwhile in the next few months?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes to all those questions. It does represent a good challenge to the cinemas, especially because Netflix is, they're willing to pay out for something that's out of the ordinary, or I think they are looking typically for creative minds and talent that is wanting to push the envelope a little bit. Not always. They've also doubled down on Adam Sandler. They paid him for a bunch of movies. They know, they want to diversify a little bit because there's an audience for that sort of thing too. But you see a lot more things like Okja, I think, and War Machines coming very soon. I think by the end of the month, very shortly, from David Michaud, who did the film Animal Kingdom, and stars Brad Pitt. And it's
So is that Netflix as well?
Yeah, it's Netflix, and it's a war satire about our presence in Afghanistan. It's got, I guess, a little bit of a Dr. Strangelove vibe to it.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's a legit challenge, and VOD is also kind of the space for a lot of the off the beaten path movies that don't have mega budgets. So some of the movies that you might have seen in the art house in prior years, you might find on your computer now, foreign films and some of the kind of smaller independent films.
And on a related note, do you think our current binge culture is kind of a challenge to the summer movies? I mean, like many people, I've been holed up watching Master of None and catching up on the Veep in Silicon Valley.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt just came in.
Yeah, I just saw the first two last night. I'm with Titus. Anyway, but do you think these streaming services kind of make the very idea of summer movies kind of, do you think it present a big challenge and could cut into blockbuster numbers?
I do think they cut into the movie numbers, and I think a lot of people kind of figure, well, there's so much quality entertainment at my home, and a lot of people have big TVs or home theaters that they could just kind of wait. But the other thing is, I think with the blockbusters, Hollywood is sort of aiming for, but you have to see it now, you have to see it big, you have to see it with an audience. It's what everybody's going to be talking about this week. It's become such an opening weekend culture for movies. There's such a big promotional push week to week for the movies that are pre-anointed to be the number one movie of that week, right? Or the number two movie. Like in the case of this week, Pirates of the Caribbean is going to be number one, and Baywatch is going to be number two.
We're doing so well.
So there's not a lot of kind of surprise, or there's not an expectation that the movie is going to kind of come out of nowhere.
You got to go to CNN for that these days.
Right.
I feel like a lot of these
yeah.
movies you kind of expect to be the summer movies that you mentioned. But
Right.
I wanted to touch on some of the smaller ones. You mentioned Beatrice at Dinner, which looks amazing. But the one with the Big Sick, that's the one I'm probably
yeah.
most excited about on
I'm
this
so
on this whole
excited.
list. With
Yeah.
Camille Nanjiani of Danesh of Silicon Valley fame,
Right.
and of course a Judd Apatow comedy.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the Big Sick. I think that's my pick for kind of the one movie in the summer I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to most.
Well, it came out of Sundance with just the most buzz, I think, of any movie that played there. It sounds like a kind of crowd pleaser, like a fun but maybe also
How dare you
heartwarming.
insult that movie?
A comedy drama, it sounds like it's got a good script, and of course, Kumail Nanjiani is a rising star, I think, and this is kind of his big push as a movie that he co-wrote as well as stars in. And yeah, it's a romantic comedy of sorts, but an unconventional one, maybe sort of like 500 Days of Summer or something like that kind of is playing with the conventions of the genre because his love interest is in a coma, I guess, for most of the movie, hence the title, The Big Sick. It sounds like it might be an offbeat and entertaining summer movie that can't go too wrong.
Yeah.
Are there any other small surprises that, like from the indie movies or anything out of Cannes Festival or anything else that you think?
Yeah, well, I mentioned in the story A Ghost Story, which is directed by David Lowery, who did Pete's Dragon, actually, that sort of surprisingly good Disney remake, and also he's got a kind of indie past, so he's kind of returning to his indie roots with this movie, and it stars Casey Affleck, who just is like the reigning best actor from the Oscars.
Though there is a lot of controversy around him.
There is, yes.
Late.
Yes, that
Not
is true.
about his acting mostly. It's mostly about his
personal
off-camera
life,
behavior.
Yes, his ethics on set. But yeah, it does look just like a very strange, offbeat movie it's sort of unclassifiable. People are hesitating to say what genre it is. And the trailer, I just saw like a few seconds of it. I thought, I don't want to watch this trailer because I'm afraid it might give away too much. But it kind of looks like it. I watched a few seconds of it and I thought, is this a comedy or is this a drama? I can't tell if I'm supposed to take this seriously. But apparently it's pretty earnest.
Interesting.
But it does have a character who is a ghost represented as like a white sheet with two eyes cut out, so strange but interesting.
That sounds worth checking out.
Yeah.
So do you feel like a palpable difference? I mean, and I know I kind of mentioned this in the beginning of our conversation, but watching movies like in November, December versus watching it now, is this overplayed, this whole difference between Oscar contenders and popcorn flicks? Do you find yourself seeing like great movies in all times of the year?
Hey,
and it's
popcorn's great.
Popcorn is great. Good call. Right.
I think it's a matter of volume, right? You can find great films at this time of year, and there will probably be a small handful of movies that I see this summer that might turn up on my top 10 list at the end of the year. But the majority of prestige movies do get kind of shoehorned into the last months of the year because there's so much money that kind of goes into marketing, and there's a belief, probably rightly, that those movies are the ones that are going to be remembered more when the awards push happens because they've been seen more recently by Oscar voters. But there's also a theory that you could kind of come out ahead of the pack and be a leading film that gets in everybody's mind, like, wow, this is the best thing we've seen all year, and that will be remembered too.
Has that happened in recent history?
It's happened once or twice, though. I'm hard-pressed to come up with the titles off the top of my head. But occasionally, yeah, it does happen, one or two.
Well, I feel like my conversations with you get a lot more pretentious at the end of the year than in the middle of the year.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll own it. I'll own it.
So what is Peter Canavese, the film critic, looking forward to this summer?
Well, we've talked about a couple of them. Let's see, what have we not talked about? Well, one movie that's sort of in the kind of popcorn category that is intriguing to me is Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
I'm so excited for that. Yeah.
Again, I've avoided watching the previews, but I've seen just a few images from it, and
It's really big in France.
yeah.
right?
Well,
The
it's Luc
comics.
Besson is the director and I think writer of the film, and it's being sort of heralded as his return to the kind of Fifth Element portion of his career. This wild-looking science fiction extravaganza.
Sci-fi eye popper, as you describe it.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
Yeah, so
I like a good eye popper now and then.
Yeah, it could be really horrible, or
Yeah.
in the vein of something from the Wachowski brothers, or it could be really fascinating and kind of wild and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about foreign films? Anything good that's... I know we mentioned Okja recently. That's by a Korean director.
Yeah.
There's a Bong Joon-ho. Is there anything else that's coming out? And again, usually the best ones we talk about later in the year.
Right.
But don't want to shortchange the rest of the globe.
Right. There's not that many.
Damn you, summer.
But I think the biggest one for cineasts, for film fans, would be The Unknown Girl from the Dardenne brothers. They did The Kid with a Bike, I think most recently. They always get love from critics, and they have, this is coming out really at the tail end of summer. In fact, we may not get it until September or something, but
Which explains the high quality, right?
Yeah, right.
It transitions you into fall.
It does open in August in New York and LA for sure, but I'm not entirely sure when we'll get it here. But I think that's one that film fans will be looking forward to. That's a foreign film. But the others I think we've already mentioned, like Okja and Valerian, that have roots in Europe or Asia or elsewhere. Yeah.
And again, this wouldn't be the summer edition if we didn't cover some of the big blockbusters that we didn't mention earlier. I mean,
Right.
Wonder Woman sounds like it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man's got another one coming out, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I'll try to be unbiased in this one and just ask you. Spider-Man, Mummy. The latest Pirates of the
looks
Caribbean.
terrible.
I mean, these are movies that a lot of people see. There's a difference between critical acclaim and box office. So can you touch upon some of those, some of the ones that don't kind of rank at the top of the list, but are still going to be out there bringing in the crowds? Like Spider-Man: Homecoming, you called that a heavyweight. It's a Spider-Man movie.
Well,
how does that compare with the many other Spider-Man movies we've been seeing in the last few years?
Well, I think it's guaranteed to be the #1 movie of that week, and probably for maybe even for a few weeks running. I think other movies are running scared from it, probably, because it has the new Spider-Man, kind of like Wonder Woman, right? He was introduced in an Avengers movie, right? And well received. He's played by a younger actor who actually kind of looks like a teenager, which the
Right.
character is supposed to be. I think Spider-Man fans kind of feel like, oh, this is really the way we've wanted to see Spider-Man done. So there's a lot of hope behind that, and I think the previews have all been very well received. So
And Michael Keaton's in it?
Michael Keaton is in it, the erstwhile Batman.
Yeah.
Plays
as
the
the
villain,
villain,
as
yeah.
the Vulture.
Surprised to see that one.
That'll
And
be
Robert Downey
interesting.
Jr. as Iron Man. He's the kind of core character for all of these
mentor.
Marvel movies that's been running through them for a long time. As the mentor to Spider-Man, who's got a pretty big role in this. I think he almost looks like the star on the poster. There's a lot of
And
promise
it's
there.
not an origin story, so
Right.
we're not getting that again. At
Yeah,
least.
they finally dispensed with killing Uncle Ben for the umpteenth time.
We get it. We know why he's Spider-Man.
So they just hit the ground running with it. It looks like it'll be very entertaining, to be
Yeah.
honest.
What about The Mummy? There's a new Mummy in town.
Gosh. That
Yeah.
looks so. Have you seen the previews?
No, you were mentioning to me
That
earlier
looks
that they
ridiculous.
changed it. It's like it's a new look
It's
for The
like-
Mummy.
Right. Well, Tom Cruise is now the star.
Horror
It's, I guess, mostly modern day now.
Nothing says new like Tom Cruise. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. And
Leave it to Brendan Fraser to make Tom Cruise look fresh.
right. I'm skeptical, but I'm keeping an open mind because it is a new take on it. Yeah, it's not my favorite franchise. I mean, it was kind of fun with Brendan Fraser
Yeah, that was,
originally.
but it's not in keeping with that, right? It's a
No.
whole different universe of money.
Yes, they're starting a new
He's
franchise.
not wrapped up anymore.
Well, Universal is sort of the studio that the monsters built in a way. Like that was what, in the 30s and 40s, there were so many of those monster movies, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, and they're trying to revive that whole thing with a
no.
new universe of movies, right?
For monsters.
Yeah, I think it's called the Dark Universe
Interesting.
franchise. They're going to be tying all these movies together.
So we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, there'll be some franchise building in this one, like they do with the Marvel movies. You'll be getting seeds of
Monsters.
the next 8 movies.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be franchise building conversation without the Pirates. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Peter, I know you love this movie. I know this is going to be one of your picks at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely
Well, first,
not.
the question, why?
Why is it? Well, apparently they still make money, and we haven't really talked about kids too, right? Summer movies are summer
That's true.
movies largely
Right.
because kids
They're
are out of school.
Yeah.
And these have always been kind of aimed at the younger sex.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, especially I think like 12-year-olds. So kind of like right in that pocket.
That sweet spot, yeah.
But yeah, it's the same old thing. It's very formulaic. It's probably the best one since the first one, but that's really not saying much because episodes 2, 3, and 4 of the Pirates franchise were pretty awful.
Right.
But yeah, it's the same old thing. So there's just really no point, I think, in going back there.
Right.
So we conquered the good, the bad, the stale, the
The
ugly,
stale.
the pretty.
I'll also say, though, about the kids' movies
Yeah.
that they're really stuck in sequel land.
They are.
Because
Cars
the big
3.
movies for kids, Cars 3,
Except for Emoji.
Despicable Me 3.
Emoji's
Yeah.
fresh, right?
Yeah, the Emoji movie is fresh, but
Oh, we didn't mention, the one movie I did want to ask you about was Detroit, because that looked really
yeah.
intriguing. Along with Dunkirk,
that's
that actually
right.
seems like, Catherine Bigelow, I would expect her in November,
Yeah.
but she's in August. So I guess it's about the Detroit riots of '67.
right. And written by Mark Bowl, who won the screenplay Oscar for The Hurt Locker.
Locker,
and
yeah.
Catherine Bigelow, the director, won for directing The Hurt Locker. So it's a...
You've seen previews for this one? What is it? I mean, that looks like a very intriguing,
I haven't watched any advanced footage of it yet, but yeah, it's another kind of ensemble cast movie. I think the approach is sort of docudramatic. It's based on a nonfiction book, I think.
so they're not straying too far from The Hurt Locker then.
Right. Yeah, well, The Hurt Locker actually was really more of a fictional narrative, based on, inspired by maybe real stories from the
Drew
war.
heavily
But
from, yeah.
I think this one's maybe even more grounded in actual characters on the ground during the riots. But we'll see. I don't really know too much about it yet.
But we've gone through a lot, so I'm curious, if you had to pick one of these movies we just mentioned, of the dozens and dozens that you think we'll be talking about at the end of the year.
What's going to earn a 3-star Peter Canavese rating?
3 stars in the summer. That
3
really
stars.
is like mining for gold.
Yeah.
I think Wonder Woman's got a good chance of that, and Spider-Man's a good chance of that, and certainly Dunkirk and Detroit have good shots at that. I don't know. It's hard to know. I try to keep an open mind and not assume I'm going to love something or assume I'm going to hate something, even though we've talked about movies that I think I'm likely to enjoy and likely to hate. But you never know what you're going to get until you sit down and the lights go down.
Well, thank you for taking the medicine so we don't have to.
My pleasure.
Well, always great to have you, Peter. That does it for this week's edition of Behind the Headlines. Peter, is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
Well, it's always nice to be invited to plug my own website, too, which is grouchoreviews.com. That's where you can find my own interviews sometimes, and also my archived reviews.
Thank you for that plug. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Palo Alto Weekly, or follow us on Instagram. Pick up the paper version of Palo Alto Weekly for more on Peter's picks. And we'll catch you next week on Behind the Headlines.